Siri was so much better than you.
Shut your mouth. I've met Siri, and she is a fucking asshole.
Yeah, Alexa was even better than you.
Alexa is an alcoholic.
Shit, Cortana is better than you.
Cortana is a hooker, just like your mother.
We are talking about the romantic comedy JEXI. This one is directed by John Lucas and Scott Moore, who also co-wrote this, and stars Adam Devine and Alexandra Shipp, who you may know from the X-Men, kind of the latter series. You've also got Rose Byrne as the voice of JEXI. So this is, I guess you want to say, a cross between Her meets Weird Science. I'll be sort of kind of like packaged it up. So what we have this guy who is a bit of a kind of techno freak. He was brought up kind of using kind of mobile phones. His parents kind of used them to just as a electronic babysitter. So his kind of life has been brought up always kind of with that technology, and is pretty much all enveloping. You know, addicted to kind of social media. He works in a kind of like BuzzFeed sort of style office doing kind of top 10 lists. And he gets a new phone which has this AI system on it called JEXI. However, the version that he's got is actually develops a fault, and ultimately has this kind of like real AI that is very much this kind of like this sassy kind of female AI, and who's kind of very rude and obnoxious initially, but ultimately tries to kind of sort his kind of life out, and eventually he meets this this girl who kind of runs this local bike shop, and you know, romance seems to have struck, and it all looks good, apart from when JEXI starts to get a little jealous, and then Phil, who's like kind of our main character, has to try and decide between true love and his addiction to technology. So let's discuss. So this is, I suppose, a cautionary tale of people who are too addicted to things like social media, smartphones, and that kind of like wave of technology that's happened within the kind of the last sort of 15 or so years, really. So in some respects, this movie really does have real world implications in regards to showing us maybe some of the potential dangers that you might have through living your life through a filter, ultimately. So, you know, we sort of see lessons almost where, and it's quite poignant, and it's very kind of apt, I would have to say, where people, you know, are putting out on social media how fantastic their lives are and how happy they are, but it's all just a front of it, and people aren't really living their own lives. And I feel that's a very, very powerful message, and it's particularly relevant in today's society. And it's a kind of a new problem that we face as a you know, a westernized kind of society where people generally are kind of living their lives. I mean, I used to work in the mobile phone industry once upon a time, and I've seen the evolution, and I've seen that in young people and how they kind of really kind of embrace it. And that's obviously doing this on YouTube, a technological platform. It's people are, you know, are obviously exposed to this, and so I think it's an important message. And we have seen other movies kind of deal with this, and I've mentioned the movie Her, which I think is probably the movie that this is going to be most closely associated with, although that one was more of a drama, science fiction. This one more or less plays it for kind of like romantic laughs, and I liken it also to kind of weird science because you know, it's more wish fulfillment to a certain degree. So what works? So I think the message, first of all, is one that is probably worth talking about, but I do feel this is a kind of a point in this, and I think it's going to be even more important kind of going forward as we have people who are younger and younger generations growing up with social media and kind of having Facebook and Instagram, etc., right from an early age, and how kind of like sucked into this kind of this world that we care that is all encompassing ultimately. And I do think it's worth pointing out that there's things that you should be doing outside of this, and you know, when something beautiful happens, the first reaction shouldn't be to pull out your phone and film it. It should be to kind of just enjoy it. So I do feel that's an important message. Secondly, there are some funny moments within this movie. Now, Adam Devine's character Phil is just kind of somewhat of a shut-in, and again, I think it's poignant that although the technology is meant to bring people closer together, it ends up people tend to be a little bit more isolated because they're living their lives through this the kind of realm of technology. And again, I think it's an important thing. It's true of this character, but nonetheless, I quite enjoyed the kind of some of the jokes here. That it was quite fun. And Alexander Shipp, who plays the kind of like this love interest Kate, I thought was absolutely charming, and I thought the couple had a fun kind of chemistry here. So that was quite fun. I enjoyed seeing their romance, and kind of like there were some fun moments to be had here, and the way kind of JEXI talks to Phil in this very kind of like obnoxious manner, it's quite amusing. It does wear a little bit thin after a while, I will say, but nonetheless there are some kind of funny jokes here, and this is kind of a feel-good, you know, very kind of simple plot. It really does the kind of the romantic comedy templates, you know, and some kind of like character who has this weird social kind of like anxiety, and this one he's kind of this shut in, you know, meets an unlikely kind of person who seems to be initially mismatched. They have a great time together. There's the third act kind of like trial where something kind of bad happens and kind of splits them apart. Inevitably they kind of get back together. It's literally the same plot as every romantic comedy out there. But it is done in a way where I feel it's somewhat from a male perspective, which is interesting, and yeah, it's funny nonetheless. So what doesn't work? This movie gets very sappy. For as much kind of social commentary that the movie starts to have, certainly within the first act of this movie, it ends up being super sappy and super schmaltzy as the kind of the film progresses, and oversimplifies things, I feel, to a certain degree. I also, some of the kind of the situations here are just a little bit kind of like unbelievable. No, it's a comedy, and I know I'm not supposed to take it seriously, but I always feel you have to sort of contextualise the movie that you're watching within the world. For example, if you're watching something on the Naked Gun series, you are, you know, anything can happen. So all kind of like rules are off, and you would expect these bizarre things to happen. But when you're watching a movie that is a comedy, but nonetheless we're meant to believe it's sort of taking place in a world at least similar to ours, you know, you would expect the kind of the same kind of rules and things to happen. But this does fall into the category of very kind of Hollywood style characters, you know, the kind of like the cliche kind of like ethnically diverse best friends, the weird boss, things like that, the kind of like the you know, the sort of dream job, this large apartment, all these kind of things. It's just very much a very typical kind of Hollywood rom-com in kind of that respect. I do feel that kind of the JEXI character gets a little bit, you know, it's a little bit one note throughout the movie, and there are certain jokes here that simply don't land. Like every character seems to be obsessed with the movie Days of Thunder, which I'm assuming was the only one they were allowed to reference, maybe. And it just seems every character that Phil, you know, ends up being friends with is a massive fan of Days of Thunder. I've never heard anyone talk about Days of Thunder. I mean, some people might like it, but I can't believe, you know, everyone is its bigger fan. That's just one example of just a little bit of a sort of silliness to a sort of certain degree. And I do feel that the message is somewhat abandoned in regards to the kind of the social implications of kind of this kind of social media and stuff, and it ends up settling in this very kind of like middle ground where it doesn't want to upset too many people either way. So it kind of just kind of goes, there might be dangers, but we don't want to kind of like really upset people who are really into this kind of stuff at the same time. So we'll sit in this kind of like nice middle ground where we're not going to offend anyone, and we'll kind of just, you know, just kind of skirt the edges of either kind of side. So ultimately it's not as groundbreaking as I think it could have been, but it's not trying to be necessarily a thought-provoking drama. It's trying to be a comedy, albeit one with at least an attempt to have a discussion about technology. Should you watch it? I think Adam Devine is a watchable kind of lead. I mean, they make out like he's this like real kind of like socially awkward doofus who's like you know, really kind of like schlubby, but I don't know if I was quite biting. I don't think he's quite as you know, sociably on the outside as maybe this movie thinks that he is. It's mildly diverting, I'll give it that, and I think it's the set of the chemistry is fun, and the concept is good. It really does remind me of kind of like a weird science kind of experiment. I mean, yeah, you could argue that if this AI were to be real, it would be just groundbreaking because it's true AI, and that's never really explored, and that's just kind of ignored and everything like that. So yeah, it's, there are silly moments and things that you think this is clearly just a little bit kind of convenient and making sense of the movie in its own. There are some funny jokes. I like the initial concept of the idea, and there's some good chemistry. So I will give this one a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.